Leung is a China strategist. Let's talk about this line that's growing and that the Middle Territory seems to be shrinking. The two sides, those who believe it's possible to live under the Communist Party's rule in Beijing, the central government there having control over Hong Kongers' way of life, and those who want something different. How big is that distance now?
Well, first of all, things must be put in its proper context. Don't forget the Hong Kong as a special administrative region under one country, two systems, until these kind of protests have been enjoying a very high international recognition. For example, Hong Kong has just won the allocate again as the world's freest economy for something like 20 years in a row. And all of a sudden, Hong Kong is now portrayed as descending into chaos and also into an authoritarian police state. So there is something in the rhetoric that doesn't necessarily reflect the full picture. Now, you will look at this protest, there are 5 demands. I mean, the main demand so far about the bill has formally been withdrawn. So the protests are still continuing. And then the distance, as pointed out, seems to be widening in the sense that these demands are actually asking not only for a high degree of autonomy under the one country, two system, but almost for complete autonomy, verging on kind of self-determination and separatism, which found echoes in some of the demands. If we look at the most important demand, the universal suffrage, don't forget the universal suffrage package during the umbrella movement, the former umbrella movement, was turned down because it was not considered meeting the full expectations of the protesters. But herein lies the paradox or the contradictions of the one country, two system, because under Hong Kong's constitution, Hong Kong's basic law, there are safeguards for the one country. Of course, the one country is not a democratic country. And then there are lots of safeguards for the two systems. But any universal suffrage must ensure that any election doesn't result into someone becoming chief executive who can push the territory towards self-determination or even separatism. So there are these safeguards which are not democratic. It's a screening of candidates, and these kind of safeguards are now not accepted by the protesters. But then, Andrew, apart from the
Andrew, can I just say it's very interesting that you're addressing doctrinal issues. We're talking about political philosophy here because one country, two systems is exactly that. And that's surely at the core of the whole disagreement. And you mentioned Hong Kong basic law. The country under one country, two systems, the country, I say the territory, obviously Hong Kong is part of China as far as countries are concerned. It has a de facto constitution. Hong Kong basic law provides certain freedoms, like press freedom in Hong Kong. And over the years, China seems to have been slowly, creepingly gaining more and more control, and recently saying that it now has complete jurisdiction over Hong Kong. So it's not that push for autonomy, for self-determination that these protesters are demanding that you're talking about. Is it not just a pushback against what's coming from Beijing?
Yeah, I mean, there is a kind of groundswell against the perceived kind of erosion of Hong Kong's high degree of autonomy, that the city seems to be tilting more towards the one country rather than to the values embraced by the two systems. That's certainly true, and also mixed with the kind of deep grievances about inequality, lack of upward mobility of the young, difficulty of getting into the property ladder, starting a family. And so all these are true. But on the other hand, if you look at these demands, as I said, I was not addressing doctrinal issues. These are very real provisions in the basic law. And the basic law is crafted in such a way to ensure that there is no kind of election in a Western kind of model, and any election must have candidates which are acceptable to Beijing. Now, this kind of safeguards are not democratic. But that's the deal. And that's what the protesters are asking for, is to disregard these kind of safeguards and also pushing the territory towards a degree of autonomy, which is almost complete autonomy and verging on separatism. And that's where is Beijing.
Andrew Leung, we always appreciate your analysis on TRT World. Thanks so much indeed.